Chief of International Operations. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you so much, Linda. It's always a pleasure.
So you were responsible for combating drug trafficking both domestically and internationally across dozens of countries. You've said the facts don't add up in this US strike on an alleged drug boat. Why do you doubt that the individuals killed were actual drug traffickers?
Because there's no evidence to prove that they were drug traffickers. And then also the Trump administration indicated that they were members of the Tren de Aragua. The Tren de Aragua gang is not engaged in transportation of drugs. They're distributors. And the other thing that is a little bit puzzling to me is that in these type of boats that they use to transfer or transport drugs, the crew members only consist of 3 to 4 max. In this case, by the estimates given by the Trump administration, they indicated that 11 were killed. And that is an outrageous number for this type of operation, because when they transport drugs in these small boats, not only will they take drugs, but they also have to take barrels of fuel given the distance that they have to travel. So everything has been destroyed, and there was no reason to blow up that boat. In this case, they decided to use unnecessary lethal force and blow up that entire boat. And there's a strong possibility, as far as I'm concerned, that these were Venezuelan citizens that were fleeing the repressive Maduro regime, given the number of people that were on that boat.
How will we ever get clarity on that if these were citizens of Venezuela fleeing that regime?
Well, I think that there has to be an investigation conducted, and then the individuals, the force, the naval force that is in the Caribbean is going to have to provide evidence that they knew that that boat was carrying drugs and that these individuals were connected with that venture. It can easily be cleared. But here's the problem, is that these drug cartels or organizations, they usually hire poor fishermen that have these little boats and they know the area to transport drugs. They pay them usually $2,000 to $3,000, and they do it because of the fact that they're very poor.
There are reports that a Tomahawk missile was used to destroy that small boat. Does that make operational sense?
Not at all, Linda, simply because the latest version of a Tomahawk missile is $2.4 million to destroy a little boat that is probably worth no more than $1,000, and then unnecessarily kill, the individuals on that boat. And there's no way that they could tell that that boat was carrying drugs. Donald Trump gave a statement. He said, oh, they were carrying drugs, lots of drugs. Well, how do you know that? And unfortunately, the media never asked him, how did you know this? What evidence do you have indicating that that boat was carrying drugs? And I can assure you that that statement that was made, that it was Tren de Aragua, I can tell you 100% that is false.
Historically speaking, would the DEA or U.S. law enforcement ever recommend such a high-level military strike against suspected drug traffickers?
Never, because this would be equivalent, Linda, to a DEA agent walking up to a drug dealer on a street corner in Chicago who's selling drugs and just executing them there, shooting them in the head when there was no provocation, where there was no threat to the DEA agent's life. That is basically what it's tantamount to.
So what message does this send right now about how the U.S. government is operating?
Well, you're right, because unfortunately, you have a lot of unqualified individuals that are in this cabinet. And the fact is that they make calls that deal with extreme cruelty. You can see what they're doing with a lot of the undocumented migrants. And this is another example of the cruelty that is being exacted by the Trump administration. And this causes consternation. It creates instability in Latin America because these countries see these things taking place and they no longer trust this administration. The administration continues to talk about security, but if you alienate a lot of the countries that we've been aligned with for many, many decades, the security level of the United States goes down drastically.
Michael Vigil, an important discussion, conversation. We appreciate your expertise. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Linda.